Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back to a very unusual Cinema Courtroom bonus podcast. Because instead of the traditional format of our show, where we often review a movie and then comment about the latest news of the cinema courtroom and pop culture industry, we are going to do something a bit more personal. I am going to answer 9 questions about myself, and I know that many of you are expecting to hear a full length show. I promise that I'm going to put one up next week, tops. But for now, let's get into a few questions to know me a little better. Let's see here. Oh, here's an interesting one. What am I good at? Well, I guess you could say that I am high-minded when it comes to discussing movies. But here's the thing that you have to know, or might already know by now. I am not a professional movie pundit, so it's not like my insights mean squat. But I think I'm good at utilizing my passions, interests, and hobbies and channeling those things to try and make something great. Notice how I use the word try? Because the cinema courtroom is far from great. Obviously, from a marketing standpoint, I have to be minimal about my own insecurities when it comes to the quality of the show. And I'm going to keep saying that the cinema courtroom show is the best damn show on this planet Earth in all of my podcast trailers, or when I put up something on my story or YouTube community tab. I'm gonna say that you would be crazy to not click my latest episode, because confidence is important, right? But I'm not gonna lie to you, because you are, after all, my viewers of this show. You are not my shareholders. I want to get better at doing more soundproofing and enhancing the audio of the show. If you want another answer of what I'm good at, I guess I can do photography. Check out Unfiltered Legacy on Instagram, I guess. I have cool shots there. Again, at Unfiltered Legacy, Instagram. And my gaming skills are good enough, but it mostly depends on the game. Like Clash of Clans. I am kinda good at it. Minecraft, embarrassingly enough, it's the one game that I play constantly in my free time. So, other than that, I'm not really sure what I'm good at overall. But hey, you got to hear 3 potential things that I excel at. I'll update you when anything changes. Moving on to the next question. What's my definition of success? Well, I think the answer to that is rather straightforward when it comes to my view of success. I think that my definition of success is the prospect of carving a footprint on this planet, a legacy to be fond of. I will never feel successful in my life if I'm not able to at least create something that stands out to the naked eye. When someone talks about me, I know that I'll be very successful if whenever my name gets brought up, they immediately bring up the cinema courtroom. Oh, I've heard of Makram. Isn't he the cinema courtroom guy? Now, obviously, we're talking about life, so who knows how long this podcast is going to be around for. But whatever I do, whether it be directing a movie, or a documentary, building a successful gaming channel, or a business startup, I want that thing that I made to be excellent and something to be proud of. Let's answer another question. What makes me angry? Well, I think what makes me angry is when someone is being dishonest in general. And I'm sure that it doesn't only make me angry, but it makes any human being who has standards very angry as well. But I think what pisses me off the most is that, and that's something I'll never tolerate, but it's that, if I am in a conversational setting and this one idiot person starts to backtalk another person. I actually have legitimate issues. Like, and to be honest, for the sake of honesty, if people talk behind my back, which happens from time to time, or maybe not, I mean, how would I know? I never heard them say it, so how would I know to be angry at them? So, I mean, it's different if someone were to talk behind my back, because it's like equivalent to someone shooting me in the face. It's a quick and painless death. I am not going to get angry at the person who killed me because I'm dead. I'm incapable of rationalizing my hatred towards someone because they killed me. How am I supposed to respond? But when I hear someone talk behind anyone else's back, I withdraw myself from that toxic environment immediately, because the truth is, any man with an ounce of hair in their balls will deal with their issues face to face with the person. A bad insult might kill the confidence of a person, sure, but there's a difference between a painless death and an excruciating one where you have to hear another individual badmouth another person. It also makes me feel like I somehow am implicit in the back talking, that I assisted in a way, because I am literally in the conversation with the group. And it's like, either I hit the person up, the person who they're back talking about, and say, I think so and so are saying this about you, which would cause even more drama, which is the last thing I ever want to do, or pretend that it never happened. That's why it makes me so angry if I'm put in such a situation. Oh, and another thing that makes me angry is hypocrisy. If someone gets bullied over one thing, but the bully does the exact same thing the next day, then let's just say it doesn't sit well with me. Let's move on to the next question, which is kind of an opposite to the last one. What makes me relaxed? So you've heard what made me angry, but let me talk about what relaxes me in my free time. And that's watching something that entertains me, which can be literally anything. A YouTube video, movies and television, of course. And I know I don't talk about television here on the Cinema Courtroom Show, because it's the Cinema Courtroom Show. It's not, I'm not going to say what I'm about to say, because I actually came up with a name for a podcast show that's going to be talking all about television, which is going to come in 2023. That I can guarantee you, but I'm not ready to give out any details because, I'm starting a whole new show while I'm also running the Cinema Courtroom Show. But the reason why I really want to talk about television in the future is because, believe it or not, I watched more television shows than movies ever since this pandemic started, for the purpose that they make me relaxed. Which answers the question, what makes me relaxed? Well, it's mostly television shows. And I'm pretty bummed out that Better Call Saul ended. But that show kept me relaxed for 11 weeks when the 6th season came out on AMC+. And I'm grateful for that. Okay, here's another question. And get ready to hear a extensive answer to that one. What is my favorite movie trilogy? My favorite movie trilogy is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. Those are the movies that feel like 8 minutes instead of 8 hours. I love Lord of the Rings. The story of Lord of the Rings is like the best story ever. Nothing in the history of this world will ever be just as half as good as Lord of the Rings. I think the best inspirational dialogue to ever come out of a motion picture is in Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo basically tells Gandalf, and keep in mind, he's been, stabbed by the ring hunters, and he is in a desperate place. He basically tells Gandalf, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened. And the music is playing in the background, and it's something I always re-listen to when it comes to Lord of the Rings. The music, it's honestly beautiful. But going back to Frodo and what he told Gandalf, you could sense Frodo's desperation and trauma at this point in the movie. He doesn't know what to do. But then Gandalf says this line, and I'm gonna quote what he actually said, because it resonated with me quite a bit. So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And something about that line, which makes Lord of the Rings my favorite movie trilogy, is what makes this movie good beyond impeccable cinematography, editing, practical effects, music, exposition, acting, and narrative. But this is a movie that I watch as a source of inspiration. It can be so easy to fall into a hopeless pit in your life. But Gandalf is basically informing Frodo and the audience of a rather straightforward philosophy. Well, you have to do something right now. And while I appreciate that you're listening to this podcast, if you feel like you need to get something done or want to fix something in your life, why wait? Why wait? Why not stop listening to this podcast and do whatever you need to right now if you feel up to it? I am serious. I got your viewership already, so just go. And you know what? For a matter of fact, I wasn't going to work on my show notes after the session because I am recording it late. It's 2:58 a.m. by the time I'm recording this podcast. But just by reading this quote now from Lord of the Rings, I am inspired to polish up my show notes for next week's show, which is just fine by me because it means that I can enhance the quality of the podcast feed. Thank you, Lord of the Rings, for that. So anyway, we have 4 questions left. But before I begin to answer them, I would just like to remind you again that this is a chilled and laid-back podcast episode. We're not talking about any movies or any news. So I would honestly appreciate it if you just give this episode a like and subscribe, because it not only assists the tides of the complex algorithm, which results in better exposure for our RSS feeds and more people tuning in, but it also means that I'll be able to record more bonus content such as this episode and expand the episode and show even further in the near future. Let's resume our series of questions, shall we? What is my favorite food? A bacon burger with meat cooked medium well. I know, my answer is basic, but so is my life, in case you couldn't tell, based on the answers to most of these questions anyway. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 100 years into the future? See, now that is a fascinating question, because I am very certain, without any shred of implausibility, that in the next 10 minutes, I am about to get a cup of water, or I'm actually very certain that I'm going to be getting a Lipton iced tea peach. Yeah. Imagine if I get abducted by aliens just to prove me wrong, though. I mean, it's not going to happen. Although maybe, because the future is so unpredictable, anything could happen in a matter of seconds. But there's a degree of confidence that you need to have in the prospect of, something paranormal is going to happen 10 minutes into the future. Trust me, it's not. Alright? But if I say that I would rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future, well, that's not a sensational answer to begin with. Whereas 100 years into the future, I think I'll get to see like more stuff that has changed over that long period of time. And who knows, maybe humans might evolve like those humans with sausage fingers and everything everywhere all at once. You know, the movie of billion other multiverses. Maybe we could somehow, it's going to merge in with our own evolution. Who knows? So, I think, obviously, I will choose 100 years into the future for sure. For the next question, and it's just going to be answered with one word in light of this holiday season. Do you believe in Santa? Maybe. Okay, guys, last question. How do you see yourself 5 years from now? I think to really come up with an answer to that question, I kind of have to contemplate what I'm doing now, besides recording this episode. Because, believe it or not, no matter how small something might be to you now, it can have an impact on you over time. So right now, I'm doing weekly uploads for the Cinema Courtroom show, which means that if I keep up the momentum, which I think I'm doing quite well so far at doing, I think I'll be doing this show for 1 whole year. As for the remaining 4 years, I think I'll have an executive producer. Actually, if any of you will be interested, any listeners who have experience running your show, I'm going to publish an application form relatively soon. There's still some stuff I need to go over in terms of things to make this work. And I know for a fact that I'll already be up and going with my television podcast, which I briefly hinted in this episode as well. I am sorry if that answer bores you, because I'm mostly talking about the Cinema Courtroom and what's coming next. But if you want to hear something else, I see myself running maybe a small business, or applying for a permit to, conduct one at least, and then trying to take that step to the next level, or directing my first movie or documentary, because that's been a long-term goal of mine for a really extensive time. I want this podcast to gain traction so that I'll be able to climb the ladders of the film industry, and then I can write my own screenplay, pay people to proofread it, and book a hotel in Los Angeles or anywhere where there are illustrious people in the industry. And then after I edit my project, or I might even have it ghostwritten, I'll hit up the connections I would have already gained by then and try and have the first page of my script read at a pitch meeting or something. But who knows? Plans do change. And I think that just about does it for my 9 questions. Thank you for tuning in to the Cinema Courtroom show, where you got to know a little bit more about me. I might record part 2, because I've had a lot of fun answering these questions. Or even better, if you have any questions that you yourself, not a page on Google, want me to answer about myself, or anything else in general that is within reason, I'm happy to dedicate another bonus episode for just that. But just remember that it's not going to be a frequent thing, because the Cinema Courtroom show is all about talking about movies and the latest stuff when it comes to the movies that we all watch and love. Thank you once again for listening to this podcast till the end. I am your galactic judge, Makram, and I hope you have a spectacular, spectacular